All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, SomeGadgetGuy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. And the QA stands for question and answer. This is an interactive conversation that we try to hold every Monday morning. And I like to hold my podcast on a Monday so that we've had time to sort of digest the news of last week. We've had the weekend. If there's any breaking news, we can kind of sort it out. Nothing gets left behind. We can follow up on some of these topics: technology, tech and politics, tech and science. Make sure that we're keeping up. And already, for this being the QA podcast, I'm already seeing an amazing live chat, romper room style. Matt Tyler, Gary the Fireman, Aditya Anil, Mimringlot, Steve Q3 Becker, and Andrew Wallace. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all tech fans, my good buddy Andrew Wallace, Fat Produce, apparently didn't have his morning meeting. He could finally join the podcast this morning. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. We've got a lot to jump into. We're going to be talking about some cool products coming to your grocery store shelves. We're going to talk about travelers around the world getting stranded because of some political and financial shenanigans. We've got another Pixel 4 leak. We've got the iPhone 11 review reactions. We've got some of the political fallout from the Huawei Mate 30 Pro. There's some interesting information, really just breaking news, just came out this morning from interviews with Huawei executives about what's going on with their super awesome Premier phone. And of course, the biggest story of the last week, YouTube again finding another way to savagely piss off tons of content creators at the same time as millions of content creators have now been exposed to a massive YouTube hack. So I'll be changing my password soon. In fact, I should be doing that right now. We'll try and get through the podcast. But I want to start off, as always, with a little... Mimrenglot. By the way, SomeGadgetGuy, can we get a moment for Aaron Heisenberg? Not to be callous, not to do a minute of silence, but for sci-fi fans, let me see if I can pull up a photo real quick. Over the weekend, Heisen, there we go. I can't type. So Aaron Eisenberg, sorry, not Heisenberg, was a much beloved character actor. I'm going to go back into screen share here. And you would probably if you were a fan of sci-fi, you would probably most recognize him as an actor on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where he played one of the beating hearts of the show. Nog, the Ferengi, was just one of those great sort of character arc stories. The first Ferengi in Starfleet, and he recently passed. So on the 21st. So if you were a fan of Star Trek, if you were a fan of Deep Space Nine, just pour out some Romulan ale for Aaron, and I hope his family and friends and loved ones are doing well. So on that somber note, I'm gonna take a quick sip of water here. My voice is already a little fuzzy, so I'm going to try not to yell so much this podcast. I know I got us all hyped up at the top of this podcast, but I don't know. Do we have an over-under on housekeeping this week? Matt Tyler. As daft as this may sound, Apple needs to launch a YouTube competitor to go against Google and YouTube. This is something we should talk about in the YouTube block. Matt Tyler, bring that back up, because when we talk about YouTube and their shenanigans, I think there's very clear writing on the wall how many companies actually value homegrown and user-generated content. Back to the podcast. So Mimrenglot is saying under 15, so it's 9:05. Housekeeping. Only got a couple stories up that I really wanna highlight. Last week was a busy week, but for getting prep done. But I did get a couple things out there that I'm really excited about. And the first one is I'm trying to hold to mixing in a few more mid-range and entry-level devices. I am not doing a great job of reviewing mid-range and entry-level devices, but I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be better. So the first one I want to highlight, T-Mobile sent over a Revelry Plus, and it's a store-branded phone. So the T-Mobile Revel line. I got an old Revel for part of the smartphone challenge, the cheap phone challenge that I did with TK Bay, and I'll be giving that phone away soon. I have been talking to TK about how we want to put that contest together. It's just contests take a lot of work, and we're both slammed with videos right now. But we will be. We will be giving away a Revel and something else fun, because I don't think I'm going to give away that X Gotti. The X Gotti in that cheap phone challenge is basically e-waste as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to try and recycle that appropriately. Maybe make a video out of that, how to recycle your gadgets. But after using the Revel, for a store brand, I was very impressed. And they partner with good manufacturers. And so I reached out to T-Mobile, and they sent over a Revelry Plus. This is a $350 phone. And I had to put in the name of the article, "Don't make that face. It's a good phone." Phones at $300 to $400 are easily satisfying average consumer basic use. So the next time you watch a review of a $1,000 phone and the reviewer is just kind of opening up social media apps and kind of taking a few photos with the phone in full auto mode, know that a $300 phone can largely accomplish that same usage. And that this notion that we can only recommend the most popular and expensive gadgets because they're good for YouTube SEO gets in the way of us having a more well-rounded and a better fleshed out gadget discussion. Also why general consumers don't really trust us techies right now. This was a good experience. So if you see someone rocking a T-Mobile Revelry, or Revel Plus, whatever version it is, that person didn't get screwed. That person got a real good phone. Then, moving right along, this one was just, it's one of those little tutorial topics that I've been threatening to do for a while. Stop software stabilization from blurring your video. Because Apple finally invented professional video quality and video editing on iPhones. With the iPhone 11, they finally invented Pro Video. Now, hopefully, tech reviewers will start taking this stuff seriously. I have been editing video on the go from my phone since 2016, and right now my channel is probably 70-30. 70% of the videos I cut from the Gadget Lab and my full workstation. About 30% of the videos, I'm cutting mobile. I'm putting up 4K and often 4K 60 frame per second videos directly from my phones. The best one that I think I can showcase now is the Fuel, the e-bike. That was all shot, stabilized, recorded. The audio was captured directly into the smartphone on an LG G8, and all of that was put together, rendered, and uploaded directly from my LG G8. So if you want to see a test drive of an awesome e-bike, electric motor assisted bicycle, that was all done in a phone. And I've been doing that since 2016. But now we can finally take it seriously. Now all those other techie enthusiasts and gadget reviewers who would tell me, "Oh, but consumers don't do things with their phones. Why should we pay attention to things like this fringe mobile journalism trend that's actually super popular and would give you a good reason to spend more money on a phone if you were curious about those capabilities." We've gotten into this holding pattern of full auto modes. For some reason, we don't trust consumers to dig that one little bit deeper. And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, but they won't." Except for all of the people that are trying. You know, we see the popularity of apps like Filmic are actually being showcased in Apple keynotes because there is a consumer interest. There is a minority of people who are looking at a $1,200 smartphone and thinking, but I have to be able to do more with it than just Instagram. So when we get stuck in all of these auto modes, things like Samsung's super steady mode, right? We can see some incredible performance on software stabilization. Like you can see some of those videos. Someone's running with the phone and it looks almost like that phone is on some kind of steady cam rig. There's a reason why almost all of those tests are conducted in super bright daylight conditions. It's because software stabilization will wreck your video once things start getting dim, once you hit a shadow in bright daylight, and once you start shooting indoors and at night. And so I need to clarify, because there was some confusion about the title of this video, Stop Software Stabilization from Blurring Your Video. I had a number of people dropping comments assuming they would read the title of that video, then drop a comment, and then not watch the video, but assuming that my tip was don't use electronic image stabilization, or EIS. Optical is where the lens moves. Electronic is where software does the stabilization for you. The tip in this video is not don't use EIS. The tip in the video is how to better use EIS so that when you're indoors, your video doesn't get all foggy and jittery and shaky. It's like a 3.5-minute video. If you care about making better stuff from your phone, give it a view, give it a share. I think it's a helpful tip. And then one last from Merenglot. Low light, use a tripod. But I am very excited by this newer generation of software stabilization, especially this gyro-based. What we had before, even up into like the Galaxy S9, the LG G7, man, software and hardware stabilization together was rough. It was really jittery and liney and edgy and really, really gross. What we have this generation has gotten way better. And we're going to talk a little bit about that with some of the iPhone 11 reactions, because again, apparently Apple invented smooth video this generation. No one's ever had smooth software stabilized video before. It's never happened. Now Apple did it, and we're all very excited about that. I have to turn down my gain just a little bit. RIP headphone wearers for the audio podcast. I'll try and smooth that out, but I was clipping that whole time. One last little bit of housekeeping and we're out. So it's not live yet because I am currently in the holding pattern of YouTube monetization. My videos still occasionally get demonetized. So when I put up a good video, I have to hold it out, I have to wait, but there is the preview version of this video is currently available to patrons. If you're on the Patreon, at a certain tier, you get early access to some of my videos and reviews. And I'm fine. I'm slow, I'm late, but I eventually get there. I was finally able to put together all of my thoughts and videos and pieces on the Sony Xperia 1, spending a month with this super tall, super skinny, premium UHD screen, 3-camera pro mode shooter juggernaut of a phone. It's fresh. It's a real fresh feel for a smartphone, and I'm kind of bummed. You know, it's that bittersweet, like I got to spend some fun time with a really sweet phone, and the problems that this company is having reaching consumers in the marketplace really don't have much to do with the actual devices. Like there's nothing wrong with the Xperia 1. It is a premium flagship experience. It's like LG. The major issue I have with the company is they don't seem excited about their own products. So we're not able to offer this up to consumers because they can't see it or play with it or experience it. So yeah, you go into a carrier store, you go into a Best Buy, you're far more likely to interact with, you know, a popular brand of smartphone, and then that just kind of keeps reinforcing this idea that Sony and LG aren't worth it for the money, when that's not really the experience when you actually take the time to use one. For all the people that did launch week videos on the Xperia 1, how many of them have followed up? How many of them have looked at what it was like to live with the phone for a little bit longer and really use the cameras in the Cinema Pro app? So it's just kind of a bummer. And I'm seeing in the chat, hold on, I got to get back over to my Twitch, LFA. Oh, LFA reviews. LFA did an amazing live stream with GameSky. I've never actually heard him say his own YouTube channel, but I love his videos. LFA Reviews did an amazing live stream with another awesome headphone reviewer, and they kind of dug into some of the topics that we're going to be talking about today, namely video production, what it's like to work with brands, and how playing with YouTube can be a very difficult endeavor, so I would highly recommend checking that out. And he just dropped a gift sub, in the live chat here on the Twitch for Aditya Anil. That was super awesome of you. Thank you so much, LFA. Again, not only for supporting production on this platform of different live streaming services, but then also for supporting the community here in the live chat. You're an awesome dude, and definitely more people should be checking out your videos. Steve, making it mega pickle rain. I love it. Got them mega pickles going. LFA reviews. All good, brother. All good. So again, LFA is going to have, I think, a video out on something near and dear to my heart very, very soon. So be on the lookout for some additional coverage. I'm pushing him. I like his take on headphones so much. I know it's rough on YouTube when you make videos about a variety of topics, but I'm trying to nudge him, because as much as I like his headphone reviews, I'd be very curious to hear his thoughts on things like smartphones and gadgets and electronics and laptops. So I'm gonna kind of keep poking him, see where he goes. All right, that wraps us up for housekeeping. Where we were at 9:05, it's 9:17. So I didn't break 10 minutes. I saw someone with the over-under on 10, but from Mimranglat saying it was going to take 15, even with a little gift shout-out from LFA, we did pretty good. I did pretty good. From Goran Petrovic, did I miss Juan defending Sony phones? So Goran Petrovic and I definitely share a lot of simpatico thoughts on features like headphone jacks and other premium quality discussions, but I was very taken with the experience on the Xperia 1. And again, it's the perfect underdog story for me. Another company who's terrible at marketing it for Western audiences, just limping into the market with some really fresh ideas on phones, and they kind of get poked at very, very casually by most reviewers, and then they just disappear from the conversation. So I gotta express, my personal bias. I like those underdog stories. So from Mimranglat, you mean the experience on the Xperia 1? All right, so let me get this out of the way here. All right, let's jump into some news. We've got, like I said, we've got a bunch of topics. I want to start off with something kind of light. Don't need to spend a lot of time on it. I am very curious who here in the live chat has had one of these faux meat plant burgers. There's a fast food chain that, it's not, super amazing quality. That's totally rude. I enjoy eating at Doghouse, right? So they have hot dogs. It's a hot dog restaurant. But they started serving Impossible burgers. And it's maybe the highest compliment I can pay to Impossible, that you go to Doghouse and you get a little, it's kind of an In-N-Out style little patty, so they kind of do a little bit of a smash. They're a little crispier on the edges. Super simple. But if you were to be served one blindfolded, the highest compliment I can pay is you probably wouldn't notice that it was anything different than just another flavor of a fast food cheeseburger, right? And it's not even that they're going vegan. By default, it's a cheeseburger with real cheese, but with a plant-based patty. So if you're cruising around, there will definitely be shortages. You will not see them in a like a. You're not going to see them in large quantities. But Impossible Burger hits supermarkets, joining rival Beyond. This is coming straight from the LA Times. Well, actually, it's coming from Bloomberg, as shared by the LA Times. Starting Friday, Impossible Foods Incorporated will finally offer its eponymous, I don't know how to say that word. I've only ever read it. Plant-based burger in U.S. grocery stores. The Impossible Burger will make its retail debut at 27 Gelson's Market locations in Southern California before expanding its retail presence late this year and early next. The product is to arrive in additional stores, including on the East Coast later this month, but Redwood City, California-based Impossible Food did not name those stores. Burger has already multiplied across restaurant menus, including Burger King locations, after starting at New York City's Momofuku Nishi in July of 2016. But until now, it hasn't been available as a raw product to consumers. And I think that is going to be the retail packaging that we're showing on the live stream, where it's just going to look like... actually, it looks a lot like the Trader Joe's packaging for just a pound of beef. So it's not going to be healthier for you. It's not... You know, the hamburger is a fun food, not a I'm being healthy food, but it's not made with any animals, no hormones, no antibiotics. It's plant-based. So hopefully the manufacturing as it reaches scale should be better. You know, again, it's just an option for a fun food kind of novelty. You know, like if it chips away a little bit at the dominance of the cattle industry and the beef industry, that might not be bad for the environment. Kind of like milk, you know, nut milks and plant-based milks they might be a little rough on water, but they're way better on resources than the manufacturing plants required to get milk out into the environment. From Memrenglot, the Impossible Burger is 1 hour's flight for me. They have the Impossible Burger in Singapore priced at $20 per serving. Give it a little time. Don't buy an Impossible Burger at $20. Not worth it. From Fat Produce, I really don't like the idea of lab-grown meat. In southern Missouri, one of the biggest industries is beef cattle farming. If lab-grown meat takes off, then suddenly thousands of rural Americans, especially Missourians, will be without demand for their livelihood. So there are always going to be market disruptions and sort of spiderweb linked cascading reactions whenever an industry faces competition. First of all, Impossible is not lab-grown. Impossible is plant-based. So the cattle industry is going to face competition from two major factors. Lab-grown meat has gotten significantly less expensive than its initial foray, and plant-based is also catching up to texture and flavor. So cattle farmers are going to have to look at what a market correction might mean for their industry. At the same time, the cattle industry is a large contributor to things like damage to the environment and climate change. So we've probably been overdue a market correction for the American diet in North America, how we eat food in the United States. So cattle ranchers, this is going to be a difficult transition for them, but it's a transition that we probably need to start making. And I don't know, maybe they can look at switching industries or switching farming or switching to other types of dietary practices that can still contribute to the American economy. I would not recommend soybeans, especially President Trump's just dumping money into subsidies because we can't sell our soybeans. But maybe, I don't know, maybe like hemp and pot. That could be a good growth industry and probably better for the environment. And then you could also use it as a basis for fuel. Hemp fuels could be a good contributor to biodiesels and things like that. We want to see if we can move things around, not just leave people out in the cold. But yeah, it would be nice if my indulgence of a cheeseburger didn't come with a significant impact on the environment. So, yes. Let's see. From Steve, I tasted one when my girlfriend ordered one at a Canadian A&W. It tasted like a burger, but when I tried the meat itself, it tasted definitely unlike meat. So I'm going to push back against this just a little bit because there are so many different ways to do a fast food burger. Wendy's, there is so much butter and oil and fat. It's different than a McDonald's, which is different than an In-N-Out burger, which is way different than a Shake Shack, which is different than a Five Guys. I think it depends on what burger you like, but the preparation on an Impossible Burger lines right up with just, it's another flavor of how you might do a smash burger, a real thick, fatty burger, a real thin, crispy burger. All of these things just have different feels and textures and flavors and composition. From trying one at the Doghouse, I would say it's just, that's another different preparation take on a burger. Again, you'll meet those people who are purists on how you're supposed to prepare a burger, or you'll meet those people who I add egg and breadcrumbs and Worcestershire sauce. And you're like, well, that doesn't taste like beef at all anymore. It tastes like breadcrumbs and Worcestershire sauce. And from Goran Petrovic, my family decided to eat less meat, and when you say that in Serbia, where meat is every day on the menu, it means 1 to 2 a week. And from Junkie, interesting. I'd like to see some kind of maggot or cricket burger. Would definitely try one. Maybe I should give out my $1 million idea. I know it was like a shocking reveal in the movie Snowpiercer, but they were using crickets as a source of protein. Poor people were eating bugs. Actually, cricket protein might be another food science. I think we talked about that like a year ago on the podcast. Not that people here in more Western sensibilities, more delicate sensibilities were eating crickets, but that they were using cricket-derived powders and proteins to infuse other foods. Matt Tyler, hashtag some foodie guy. Save the planet, save the plants, eat the cows. Oh, Steve, Q3 Becker. I've tried a Five Guys burger last week, and I definitely prefer an A&W burger. Interesting. Matt Tyler, hashtag some foodie guy will take off. I don't know. Maybe there is a some foodie guy. He doesn't post very often, but he's around. You could probably find him. I'm just saying. All right. So, I'll save this for another podcast, but Aditya Anil, have you seen the conspiracy theory that Snowpiercer is a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I totally have. I don't remember whose channel I saw it on, but it was a very good write-up on the levels and stages that Chris Evans battles through on Snowpiercer and how it lines up with Willy Wonka. I could see it. I enjoyed it. All right, another quick news bit. I know I said that last one was going to be quick, but we spent a little bit more time because I don't eat breakfast before I do these shows, and I'm already a little bit hungry. So starting off with a story about burgers was probably not smart podcast planning on my part. This isn't a direct technology story as much as it is technology disrupting an industry, and then how we still try to save and bail out certain companies in the face of modern competition. Well, this time it didn't work. Over the weekend, especially over the last day, this was the top most discussed item on the SomeGadgetGuy Patreon Discord. the little sort of private chat that we host for Patreon subscribers. Apparently, thousands of people who were traveling are now stranded. Thomas Cook collapses as last-ditch rescue talks fail. Let me scroll down here. This is coming by way of BBC News. And again, is it just me, or does BBC News never share a byline with who actually wrote up the story? Okay. So this is a 178-year-old holiday firm. So like a travel firm. The UK Civil Aviation Authority said the tour operator had ceased trading with immediate effect. It has also triggered the biggest ever peacetime repatriation aimed at bringing more than 150,000 British holidaymakers home. And from following up on other stories, and Merenglot just put this in the live chat, 600,000 people who have been using Thomas Cook as a travel service are apparently stranded around the world. 150,000 British folk are stuck. The company crashed, couldn't find some way of raising emergency funds, and now those people are stranded. Let me get this back up over here. BBC Transport correspondent Tom Burridge said 16,000 holidaymakers were booked to come back on Monday. Authorities hope to get at least 14,000 of them home on chartered flights. The government has chartered 45 jets to bring customers home, and they will fly 64 routes on Monday in an undertaking dubbed Operation Matterhorn. The size of the fleet will make it temporarily the UK's fifth largest airline, just to bring people back home. Customers will be on special free flights or booked onto another scheduled airline at no extra cost, with details of each flight to be posted on a dedicated website as soon as they are available. The numbers on Thomas Cook: there are 22,000 jobs at risk worldwide, 9,000 jobs at risk in the UK, 150,000 British holidaymakers to be repatriated, and they own 34 planes, Airbus A321 and A330s, and they look proper messed up. According to the BBC, what went wrong? Thomas Cook had secured £900 million rescue deal led by its largest shareholder, Chinese firm Fosun, in August, but a recent demand from its banks to raise a further $200 million in contingency funding put the deal in doubt. The holiday company spent all of Sunday in talks with lenders trying to secure the additional funding and salvage a deal, to no avail. And the article goes on. I'm going to have all of the articles to all the stories we talk about linked in the show notes after the audio podcast goes live. I'm actually kind of surprised by those numbers. Hundreds of thousands of people that were using these types of travel booking services. In the BBC article, they go on to talk about what some of the market disruption was. And, I shop online. So a lot of, when I have to take a flight, I'm just comparative shopping on websites. I'm not calling a travel agent. This looks like a massive hit to an industry that is very easily disrupted by automation, web services, and how you can compare the quality of service across different platforms very, very easily. So, I could see where I could totally see where investment firms, banks, not likely to stick their neck out for a somewhat old-fashioned service. There's something really sad about that, that you would call a travel agent and get a personalized service from a very knowledgeable agent, but we don't really pay for that kind of bespoke attention anymore. Like I mentioned on a previous podcast, I was like, I've always wanted to do sort of like a bespoke gadget service, run a store, but you don't really sell anything in the store. It's just so that you can come in and try out gadgets that you might not have the opportunity to play with. It doesn't work, and like the economy on that doesn't work. People aren't going to pay for knowledge, for experience, or for a higher level of service when they can then just go online and buy something super dirt cheap. But at the same time, Thomas Cook's fallout here isn't necessarily just, the internet and those darn millennials. We'd be pretty confident that there was some upper level shenanigan, because while this company was falling apart at the seams, well, all of the executives still needed their bonuses. Millions of pounds. Who had it? I think Matt Tyler was sending me over some numbers. All of the people that are going to wake up, this is from Matt Tyler, all of the people who are going to wake up without a job this morning, and that's going to affect their pension. But the CEO was getting millions of pounds in bonuses. I think 20 million went out to the executive staff while the company was cratering and was unable to sustain their financial obligations and even just bring holiday travelers home. 20 million was still going into the pockets of already very rich people. And that's also, here it is. Matt Tyler, the bosses of Thomas Cook took 20 million in bonuses each over the last 5 years while the company went under around them. You can always count on people wrecking big, huge, popular services and still getting to profit from that, while everyone else has to shoulder the financial burden, has to shoulder the fallout. Things get more expensive around us. And there's no comeuppance, like there's no market correction. Those executives will go on to other high-profile executive jobs in other industries, probably with similar effect, and make sure that they've got their golden parachutes ready to go. So I'm sad because the British government is going to have to front the costs while they're still figuring out Brexit. Another great example of people at the top of the food chain pulling some strings, making some claims, not being able to back it up. I think Matt Tyler was pro Brexit in the live chat. It's not for me to say whether or not Brexit would have been a good idea or a bad idea, however you might feel about the EU. But I think we can all agree that the folks who were loudly championing the idea of Brexit didn't really have a plan, didn't really have an escape, a proper escape. And now all of the regular people in the UK are going to have to, deal with the fallout on some bad actors who were only looking out for themselves. So, again, that was a very discussed topic, story on the SomeGadgetGuy Patreon. It's hilarious and sad and ridiculous and frustrating and anger-inducing. So I more than anything else, I just hope the people affected are able to safely get back to their homes, because that's rough, getting messed up when you're supposed to be taking a vacation, when you're on holiday, and then this happens. Man, I'd be pretty lit up about that too. So, let's move on to one of the biggest stories in tech over the last couple days. This broke while I was at Newegg, shooting some videos for the Newegg YouTube channel. It didn't affect me personally because I'm not really... if you're watching this on Twitch or Mixer or Periscope. You're not watching this on YouTube right now because I'm not having a good time with YouTube, and I don't like playing ball with YouTube just for the sake of making Google happy. For all of the various individual Google services, some I really like, some things I'm very critical of. The most frustrating aspect of being an online content producer has been watching the rise of popularity algorithms. It started with Facebook, where I've basically, it's basically digital extortion, as far as I'm concerned. Facebook's business model is withholding what you've already built until you pay them. So if you had a Facebook page, you put a lot of time and a lot of effort into building up the numbers and reaching out and finding your audience, Facebook would then withhold your content from the people who were already following you until you paid them more to reach more of the people who had already subscribed to you. YouTube's changes to things like subscriptions and notifications is very similar. And then we went through the whole adpocalypse where they used that as an excuse to hammer smaller channels for the sins of larger channels. And channels like mine got savagely demonetized. My entire channel was cut out after the Logan Paul incident. You don't ever get an after action. You don't ever get a reason. There's no, outreach. It's all totally automated until you complain enough that you can get it fixed. But if you weren't looking at your analytics closely, you might have gone a while. I mean, I think it was almost a week where my channel was not bringing in any income, though people were telling me that they were still seeing ads on my videos. So YouTube got a free week on me with my own content. Over the last week, and I think it broke on Wednesday or Thursday, YouTube decided that they needed to put the screws to homegrown content creators again. And so they made significant changes to their policy on verification. So if you go to YouTube, you'll see some channels have like a little check mark by their name. This is, again, like, I have a check mark on my name on Twitter, but this is that like popularity, cool kid at the lunch table idea just reinforced time and time again. The keeping up with the Joneses, the you should care because these people are sort of, Instagram famous notion of how we make things popular and how we can game those systems. But essentially, if you had a channel with over 100,000 subscribers, you could apply to verify yourself. And then if someone else sort of cloned your channel or cloned your likeness, like maybe they made a channel and used your profile picture and made a channel name very similar to yours, you had a check mark. And again, you could get that at 100,000 subscribers. That used to be notable. But YouTube decided, well, that's not enough anymore. Now we're going to change verification. So we're only going to verify individuals or companies who are notable outside of YouTube. And so it's not going to be based on subscriber count anymore. It's going to be, are you already famous somewhere else? So if you're famous because you're in movies, or if you're famous because you're on TV, or if you're already highly notable in some other arena, then it's a completely arbitrary and cloaked process for how you get verified. So that was already pretty bad. That was already angering enough. But to sort of add insult to injury, they de-verified individuals who didn't meet their secret arbitrary criteria. So there were people with channels that had over 1 million subscribers, and their channels got ganked. Their little check mark went away. So obviously, that's not a good play on your platform. YouTube communities can get very vocal and very aggressive when their favorite creators are complaining about stuff like that. I mean, no one came to my defense because I wasn't verified in the first place, and I still haven't broken 100,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. And I'm really increasingly doubtful that I'll ever be big enough for YouTube to ever worry about my verification. But the backlash was so fierce and so sudden that it only took them about a day to walk back the policy on de-verifying people on their platform. So this is coming directly from the YouTube creator blog. Updates to YouTube's verification program, updated 3 p.m. on September 20th. Yesterday, we announced changes to the verification badge. The idea behind this update was to protect creators from impersonation and address user confusion. Every year, we receive tens of thousands of complaints from creators about impersonation. Also, nearly a third of YouTube users told us that they misunderstood the badge's meaning, associating it with endorsement of content and not an indicator of identity. While rolling out improvements to this program, we completely missed the mark. We're sorry for the frustration this caused, and we have a few updates to share. I need that to sink in for just a second. YouTube's solution for reducing confusion and to protect content creators from impersonation was to make it more subtle. They're going to get rid of the little checkmark badge, so it's going to be harder to tell which channels have been verified, and they're going to make it harder to get verified on their own platform. So if you're successful and popular on the YouTube platform, it's going to be harder to protect yourself against someone impersonating you. And it's going to be harder for general consumers of YouTube content to see who's been verified and who hasn't been. I really need that to sink in. YouTube's strategy here is completely backwards if they're trying to do what they're claiming they're trying to do. Now, if we take a very cynical examination of their policy and we look at some of the general trends that YouTube has been trotting out for how they promote some content over other content, this makes perfect sense. If YouTube wanted to devalue the impact of homegrown and smaller content creators in favor of turning YouTube into a big platform for clips of verified traditional broadcast content. So if YouTube becomes the place for a Jimmy Fallon clip to go viral, well, that's way safer for advertisers, right? Advertisers are going to be way happier with that kind of traffic. It's already on NBC. They've got standards and practices. Jimmy Fallon is never going to be controversial. We love that our ad dollars are being spent on Jimmy Fallon clips, not on, cranky gadget reviews, stuff like that. We can't cotton to that. We need this to be safe. If that is YouTube's overall goal for legitimizing their platform, then this makes perfect sense. Take away verification, make it way more confusing, make it harder for consumers to untangle who's what's real. But we know Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon's famous. Jimmy Fallon's on NBC. Well, yeah, we'll verify a Jimmy Fallon for sure. All right, getting back into YouTube's non-apology. So just like in the past, all channels that have over 100,000 subscribers will still be eligible to apply. We'll reopen the application process by the end of October. Going forward, we'll review those channels to verify their identity. If we determine that a channel is attempting to impersonate, we won't verify that channel and may take additional action. We've improved the process and will verify channels that are, here we go, authentic. Your channel must represent the real creator, brand, or entity you're claiming to be, and we'll look at a variety of factors to help verify your identity. It may ask for additional info or documentation. And complete. Your channel must be public and have a description, channel icon, and content, and be active on YouTube. They're not backing away from the changes to the verification process, though. So they're still going to leave this 100,000 subscriber cap. That's the threshold that you need to meet. But hold on, let me go back into screen share. This is the last bit right here. When viewers come to YouTube, it's important that they know the channel they are watching is the official presence of the creator, artist, public figure, or company that it represents. With that in mind, we're announcing upcoming changes to our channel verification program starting in late October. There are 2 parts to the new verification program, a new look and new eligibility requirements. So this is the new look. Instead of check marks, I gotta wait for this GIF to reload. So that used to check mark right there. So now instead, if you're verified, you're just gonna see a dull gray border around your name, which makes it way harder to really tell who's been verified and who hasn't been. Instead of a music icon or a check mark, just a not even a gradient. Even a gradient would be easier. Just a, kind of an outline behind. But these are the new eligibility requirements. Now, if you notice in the update, they didn't walk these back. This is the new policy. And the new policy is prominence. Does the channel represent a well-known or highly searched creator, artist, public figure, or company? Is this channel widely recognized outside of YouTube and have a strong presence online? Is this a popular channel that has a very similar name to many other channels? This is all, we want famous people from outside to be the new hot content on YouTube. Google's entire strategy, or Alphabet's entire strategy here on YouTube since the original adpocalypse, has been to make YouTube safer for advertisers, has been to move the goalposts on newer and smaller content creators, making it more difficult to rise up, and has been to verify that which is already popular. Prominence. Prominence is a major aspect of this new verification process. So when you see increasingly echo-chambered algorithmic popularity content in your YouTube feed, that's by design. That's not a bug, that's the feature. And increasingly, I'm ruffled by the current tone of YouTube gurus. This is how you're successful on YouTube. This is how to break through on YouTube. Don't be yourself. Only be one little minor niche of yourself. Only focus on one thing and do wacky thumbnails and make sure you're constantly changing the titles of your videos and changing the thumbnails so that you stay relevant in that first hour after release. We can jump through every hoop. We can sacrifice at every altar to try and appease the YouTube algorithm gods. But increasingly, trying to appease the YouTube algorithm looks just the same as trying to manipulate the YouTube algorithm. Neither are really a clear path for content creators to make honest, appropriate content. I've got to make this video about a trending topic because I don't want my numbers to fall, and YouTube punishes your channel hard when your metrics don't keep growing in kind of a capitalistic, cancerous growth. My channel gets beat bad, and I can see the effect when I want to talk about something else, when I want to talk about something that's less popular. I purposely staged a video on image stabilization and on the T-Mobile Revelry the week the iPhone came out. I did an e-bike test drive the week the Galaxy Note came out. My channel suffers for that. But I increasingly want to find those opportunities to talk about other things than just what is deemed the popular topic of that day. And I think that that's a healthier way to promote conversation and diversity across tech topics and across the gadget industry. But my channel is unsustainable. If I weren't making money in other arenas or other avenues, from crowdfunding on Patreon to hosting on Newegg to taking content deals where I'm producing content for other YouTube channels and for other manufacturers, if it weren't for all that, I wouldn't make any videos on YouTube. A huge variety of other streams of income are necessary to subsidize the videos I put up on YouTube. And if I were really trying to leverage that and only making YouTube algorithm approved styles of videos, I'd still be getting hammered. My metrics would still suffer. My verification would still be in doubt. All of these things wouldn't change. My monetization would still be in the toilet. My recommendations, my searches, my referrals, people who smash that bell icon would still not be getting notified. All of that would still be going hand in hand in hand in hand, and I'd be making videos that I hate. So Matt Tyler was asking, why doesn't Apple or why doesn't someone try and make another YouTube competitor? And the simple fact of the matter is that there's really not great money in it. The server costs, the infrastructure costs, the fights that you need to have with mega media corporations that care very much about policing their copyright and their intellectual property at the expense of things like fair use and commentary and critique. And then also you have an undereducated workforce of content creators who don't always understand the finer side of commentary and critique. I did a trailer reaction video. Not fair use. You are not safe under the law by just looking at a movie trailer and going, dang, that's not commentary and critique. I would highly recommend people check out Legal. It's a great YouTube channel, and he speaks very intelligently on copyright and IP and a variety of other legal topics. It's one of my all-time favorite YouTube channels at present. Actually, one of my all-time favorite of all time YouTube channels. It's awesome. You run into so much hassle. You run into so many headaches. You run into so much infrastructure. Every single attempt at a fresh, creator-focused approach to creating a YouTube competitor has failed. The closest we can get are services that have stuck around because they try to keep a community that offers something a little different. Vimeo isn't really focused on that day-to-day traffic, didn't start up by trying to compete against YouTube for kids doing wacky pranks and cat videos. They tried to go after like filmmakers. The other opportunity might be looking at something which is less video focused, but is just more archival. Like, I love archive.org. I host a lot of content on archive.org, and instead of supporting Wikipedia, who I have issues with their verification for moderation on Wikipedia, I give money regularly to Archive. That is a huge undertaking, and again, it's an unwinnable task, but I like the philosophy of trying to back up the internet, archive important content on the internet. And then we're probably just going to enter another phase of trying to draw people back to individual publications and blogs and hosting their own content. I've basically moved to using YouTube as free server space. I'm hosting this live stream on Twitch because the community tools on Twitch are still better than the community tools on YouTube. I can always just dump a video on YouTube, not really expect it to perform well thanks to YouTube metrics, but if I'm going to have to go out and find my audience on other social media, then what do I need YouTube for, and why should I play YouTube's game? So this entire debacle, I'll link it in the show notes. I did like sort of a Twitter rant. One, sharing just, I'm so frustrated with the quality of content we get because of all of the people trying to play the YouTube algorithm game. So I call it the drama dance, especially in gadget reviewing. Before a Galaxy launches, it's, oh, Samsung can't do anything right, and look at these leaks, and look at these rumors, and they're gonna lose me, and I can't, and this is, and oh boy, sucks. And then the phone comes out, and then there's this explosion of, well, wouldn't you know it, against all odds, this multi-billion-dollar corporation which is skyrocketing on YouTube SEO completely as a meritocracy won me back over, and now I love Samsung again. Those things that I were criticizing before, they're not so bad once you get used to them. This drama cycle is completely fueled by the need to keep pumping out videos that line up with YouTube metrics and YouTube algorithms and YouTube popularity and the trending topics. That whole time, if you do a video on an LG, you're going to get savaged unless you can make a video not reviewing an LG, but telling Samsung users why they were smart to not buy an LG. You see? That's why we don't really get a ton of reviews and long-term examinations. It's why, as I was leaving Pocket now, you don't see a lot of those after the buzz videos. They were kind of unsustainable. My camera reviews were completely unsustainable. My current YouTube catalog is unsustainable. If I were really looking at YouTube as a source of income, I would have quit a long time ago. And a lot of content creators probably would have bounced if it hadn't been for other sponsorships, for other monetization schemes, merch stores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's getting rough out there. It's getting really rough out there, and that's why increasingly you hear me talk about other platforms and other ways that we can participate. And just watching someone's video is not really contributing to the success of someone who's trying to make cool stuff for you to watch, usually for free on the internet. There's this entitlement to, well, and I paid for YouTube Red or YouTube Premium, so I shouldn't ever have to watch ads. Well, tough. You want cool stuff. It has to be promoted and monetized somehow. And increasingly, that Twitter rant that I went through was kind of my poke at YouTube's track. The path that they're on seems pretty clear to me. If you like your content homegrown, that is not going to be one of the primary action items at YouTube. What YouTube will be looking to popularize and what YouTube will be looking to promote is the safest content for advertisers. So the channels you like will likely not be getting a nudge, and you're going to start to see them taper off, and you're going to start to see them diversify. Even MKBHD and Unbox Therapy are moving over to podcasts for some of their conversation and some of their audience outreach. Even the top players are looking at stepping aside from just YouTube distribution. It's unsustainable. They cannot sustain YouTube's demands on popularity, and they're even not as safe as Jimmy Fallon dancing with the roots on network TV. So, let's go through some comments. I was getting a lot of traffic while talking about this, and I was soapboxing pretty hard, so I wasn't able to read and keep up. That's the Thomas Cook stuff. I'm going to scroll back down through here. Abraham Artemis. So, more Jimmy Fallon laughing at everything then. Woo! Aditya, that's really nice. The quality of content on Juan's channel is seriously underrated. If it gets the slightest push from the all-powerful algorithm, he can easily join the verified club with the silver plaque. I really don't believe I will be verified. I'm kind of curious to see. I'm at 94,000 subscribers. I'm consistently growing between 1,000 and 1,500 subscribers a month. My channel metrics have never been better. From the middle of summer to now, my watch time is up 30%. My views are up somewhere 15 to 20%. Subscribers are up about 10 to 15%. All of the metrics are up, but my monetization is basically held flat. In fact, last month it dropped. Again, middle of summer, I'm not too surprised that ad buys were low, but with sustained growth in all of the categories that YouTube seems to care about, my channel has never been healthier. My monetization has stayed flat or dipped. And from video to video, I can see a pretty clear indication that whenever I put out a video on a less popular topic or a less popular product or something that isn't, like right in the zeitgeist of the trending topics, my next couple videos aren't shared or notified to the same degree. It seems pretty direct. So, like when I share the podcast on YouTube, my watch time skyrockets. Like I keep a pretty consistent, view duration. The percentage of that video that gets watched is huge. And then because I do 2-hour podcasts, I'm keeping people on YouTube for a long time, but the views aren't necessarily that high. Maybe 1,000, maybe 1,500 views. I think my best viewed podcast is somewhere around 2,500. But when I do a Bluetooth Rubik's Cube, because I think that's cool and it's something I want to share and I think people might be interested in that, it might only get like 1,500 views its first day or two. My next video is going to be invisible. It's just not going to get any notification, any traffic, any sharing. And then if I do a video on a more popular device, then I see like other videos on my channel start to pick up a little steam. But again, it's all built on this sort of, I call it algorithm cancer. Like you have to show every video grows and every video reaches a certain percentage of your audience and every video has increased watch time. And as soon as you log into YouTube, you see these little arrows. You are underperforming. Your last video didn't do so well. Here's the YouTube Academy. You need to get better. It's all gamified and it's all at our expense. There is no backup. There is no real resource for us to improve any of this stuff. And we never get a good after action other than just dumping analytics in our laps. Why did my last video get demonetized? No way to know. But, after the peak viewership wore off, we re-looked at your video again and we've decided that it is safe for advertisers after all, even though, you won't make any money on it now that the main group of viewers that you might have pulled to it have already seen the video. That monetization's gone. But you'll get a little trickle income from your hard work in keeping people on our service. You might make a couple bucks on it after a couple years. So frustrating. Oh, Abraham Artemis throwing some love to the Graham Norton show. I like Graham Norton when there aren't Americans on Graham Norton. They don't get it. It always like tanks the flow of the show. It's always best when it's an all British couch. From Steve, I wish you could hide the trending tab on YouTube. I die inside every time I get bored and curious enough to look at it. It's not great. From Abraham, somehow I want Juan to do a collab with GCN for more bike content. I used to be an avid mountain biker. I was crazy out of shape for road biking. But it was still a fun video to put out. Just no one saw it. No one shared it. That Fuel e-bike, nothing. Going up against the Note 10 was bad. From Zalbotnik, Legal Eagle is great indeed. Does lawyer TV show reaction videos as well. Those are so much fun. Watch his video on Suits. It's hilarious. Now, a lot of people have mentioned Floatplane as a potential solution for other monetization. And honestly, I kind of feel like I'm doing okay with Patreon right now. I don't love a lot of Patreons outside of Patreon business practices. But it's still the most straightforward way of guarding some content. And then also offering a paywall at the lowest possible premium. So even when I hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm probably not going to turn on YouTube subscriptions because they would require me to charge more for that content than if you went through Patreon. And even that is sort of a slap in the face to content creators and the YouTube audience. I want to be able to set my own rates. And if you want to be able to watch one of my camera reviews, I want you to pay as little as you can because I am not a distribution service like Netflix. The entertainment dollar, $5 for my channel on YouTube is going to have to compete against $5 for Apple Arcade. I can't offer up that level of entertainment, but YouTube won't let me charge you less to get to my content. Oh, and some folks talking about Asus and the ROG Phone 2. All right. We're still going to talk about YouTube. It's just, we're going to shift gears here for one more story. Surprisingly, coming by way of Forbes, Davey Winder actually doing some investigative journalism for Forbes. YouTube security warning for 23 million creators as massive hack confirmed. This is breaking news. This morning, high-profile YouTubers have been targeted by cyber criminals over the weekend in what appears to have been a highly coordinated and massive attack. The security warning was made by Catalin Simpanu, a ZDNet reporter who spoke to a member of an internet forum with a history of trading access to hacked accounts. Here's what we know so far and what you need to do to protect your own account. So basically, 23 million channels, the account details have been exposed. There was a coordinated phishing campaign against YouTube to crack into and find this database. And the scariest aspect of this, I lost it in the article, is that a lot of these accounts, it looks like two-factor authentication has been circumvented. So, 23 million channels, they can get in, and a handful of a handful of these channels, they can even get around the two-factor. So, especially if you're using text messaging as your two-factor authentication, that looks like it has also been breached. This whole digital online economy is just cracking. Little bits here, little bits there. These supposed like institutions that we hold up as like YouTube is indomitable. YouTube is not indomitable. YouTube is not a foregone conclusion. What I might need to do is just looking at paying for a bit more server space and hosting on my blog, and maybe I should just start hosting videos on directly from my site and trying to get people to go to my blog directly. Increasingly, I would not be turning to a service like YouTube as a career path. If you want to make things on the internet, I would be looking at diversifying and building a community and building a following on your own terms. Reaching out to people on every platform and every service, but keeping some home base where you can control the distribution of your own content. So Matt Tyler, indomitable, is YouTube a snowman? Kinda. In that it's indomitable until they face some heat, and then that heat will cause them to melt. Just a little scary news for you there. I'll probably go and change my passwords again. I've already shut down, not shut down, I mean, they're still technically available. No, I pulled most of the videos from them. There was the Movies You May Have Missed account, so I just gutted that YouTube account because we could never host a video without getting a ton of copyright claims on our movie reviews. And then I also pulled all the videos off of my SomeGadgetGuy account. So those old mic technique videos and voiceover technique videos, I got the notification like, oh, you are no longer eligible for monetization, and we're pulling your monetization, but thank you for keeping these videos that are still getting viewed and still getting traffic. You just won't make any money from them anymore, so I pulled all of those too. So I'll probably end up changing all of my passwords again on YouTube from the last round of potential breaches and security issues. It's just, man, just so rough. From Matt Tyler. Well, Google Plus is totally safe. You should put your info there. No one can get to info on Google Plus. All right, I need to take another sip of water here. Then we gotta run through some Huawei talking points. We spent some time last week on the podcast talking about the leaks and the rumors and all the things that we were hoping to see or that we would see on the Mate 30. I don't really feel like we need to tackle the Mate 30 directly, but what I want to talk about is the infrastructure for the Mate 30. It looks like it's going to be a badass phone, but some issues with how we're going to use it. So, Mate 30, probably the camera champion for stills photography. Again, Huawei looks like they are far ahead of the current pack of premium phones. For all the people that are going to go and claim the iPhone camera is the bestest, no. The physics of a larger camera sensor and Huawei's, especially Huawei's low light processing, easily taking the performance crown for stills photography. Something tells me they'll still probably be a little behind on video. Huawei still hasn't found that special sauce, that secret ingredient to get the Kirin up to Qualcomm specs for not only sort of high frame rate video, but also for smoothing and stabilizing high quality video. It's not bad. It's just what you can do on an LG for video will probably outpace what you can do on a Kirin 990 on the Mate 30 for video. But the ultra wide getting a huge spec bump, the main camera getting a big spec bump, all of this stuff looks like it's on point. This is in keeping with Huawei's tradition of finding some cool tech disruption and focusing on content creation and multimedia. For everyone now acting like iPhone invented pro camera use, no. I mean, we've been there since the Lumia 1020, and Huawei seems like the spiritual successor to those old Lumia crazy camera experiments. So, the big fear point, the FUD, we don't know how the market will respond, is a Huawei that can't use core Google services. Known, what is it? The Google Multimedia Suite? Is that what GMS stands for? I honestly can't remember. But it's essentially the core Google services setup will be denied to Huawei phones. So all of the ancillary Google services and products are not going to run on the Mate 30. The Mate 30 is using AOSP. It is still using Android. The Harmony OS was not ready to go. But that's not what we know as Android. Android is the combination of an operating system running on a Linux kernel and the huge variety of apps and services and plugins and all of the little things that also run under the hood that we might not directly interact with. All of that is gone for Huawei. So my hypothesis was, as soon as the Mate 30 is announced, you're going to see a flurry of activity and people trying to get Google apps and Google services running on a Mate 30. One of the very first comments that we got last week on the show was just talking about bootloaders. So will you be able to unlock the phone to sideload certain pieces of content? And that looks like it's a big fat no. This is coming by way of Android Authority, C. Scott Brown, an updated story yesterday. Huawei clarifies it has no plans to unlock the Mate 30 series. So this is from the update on the 22nd. A Huawei spokesperson has reached out to Android Authority to clarify comments made by Richard Yu at the Mate 30 series launch, now stating that Huawei has no plans to unlock the bootloader on Mate 30 series devices. How this choice will impact those wanting to sideload Google Play services is as yet unknown, and we don't yet know if this decision may be revised in the future. With no Google Play services and no Google apps out of the box, the Mate 30 series has a pretty serious uphill battle on its hands in the West, unless, of course, Huawei has another plan up its sleeves. Interpret Richard Yu's comments below as you will. Huawei declined to comment any further on the bootloader situation, but will update this article with more information that comes to light. During Android Authority's coverage of Richard Yu's comments, Android Police may have stumbled on something that could work. This was a story that was published this morning. Huawei Police, written up by Manuel Vonau. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Huawei Mate 30 Pro workaround to install Google Apps discovered, but it comes with a trick. So, just some discussion talking about how Google Play services, Richard Yu's first said the company was thinking about making the bootloader unlockable. But then they decided to reverse those. They will not be making the bootloader unlockable. But just like any enterprise mobile device manager, LZ Play receives a plethora of system permissions. Usually MDMs allow administrators to easily push and update software across a business fleet of phones. But LZ Play uses the same permissions to let users without root access install system-level applications such as the Play Store, Play Services, or other Google apps. Think of the app as a powerful root alternative for non-rootable devices, but due to its origin in administration software, it's potentially a huge security risk. So, this took longer than I thought it would. I really thought same day we'd see people cracking open Mate 30 Pros and shoving in all the Google goodness. But there is now an exploitable solution thanks to enterprise management software that can inject what you need to use to get Google Play services running on a Mate 30 Pro. How you source enterprise management software might be a bit suspect. So, because it's capable of injecting this, it's also capable of injecting other things that you might not want on your phone. Definitely a buyer beware kind of situation for the Mate 30 Pro for this specific example of running Google Play services. I think this could be, if played right, and every instinct in my body is saying it won't be played right. But this is a disruption point which could serve as a positive if it's leveraged appropriately. I think there's a lot of homegrown Chinese sentiment that will help keep Huawei afloat locally in the Chinese market. And I think there is a consumer opportunity to start weaning certain populations of consumers off of Google. You know, we see that this functionally works on a handful of other devices. There's a reason why Samsung and Google are frenemies, and that Google doesn't want to piss off Samsung enough that they go off and make a Tizen phone, but they're contentious enough that Samsung continues to put out Tizen watches, and they continue to pack their phones with third-party services that you open up a Note, and it's just as likely the consumer might experience Microsoft Office as a primary Office suite as they are Google Docs. That Samsung's music streaming platform of choice is Spotify and not Google Play Music. It's not a foregone conclusion that you using a Samsung will use first-party Google services over the competition. They are muddying the waters a little bit on what an Android device really is. So I think there's room. I think there's potential. There's a little sliver of hope for a Huawei that as long as they can put on a good browser, a good email client, a good messenger, they can find some way of interoperability with a number of other platforms and services, and they can get app developers to help out with some of the more popular services, then consumers might not really notice grand, substantial changes. Back in the Galaxy S3 and the Galaxy S4 days, I've got my Note 4 somewhere here. How many Note 4 users really cared that their default browser was the Samsung browser and not Chrome? I cared, but I'd be curious to see how many people really long pressed on that dock, got rid of one icon that said Internet, and went into their apps and long pressed on Chrome and brought that up to the front of their display. I think there is a statistically significant group of consumers that didn't stray from what they were initially presented. Navigation is going to be tricky. email. It's making a good email client is not easy, but there are some alternatives out there. I think the messaging situation might be a bit difficult depending on what companies continue to do business with Huawei, but it's not like Android messaging is so bulletproof that they can't sneak in something else there. So I don't think the doom and gloom, oh, no one's going to buy a Huawei phone if they can't use Google services. I think there's still potential. And especially in European markets, I think there's room where there's sort of an antitrust sentiment surrounding mega corporations like Google and Facebook and Amazon. It might become a counterculture badge of pride for a minority of smartphone users who do care about things like diversifying their online usage, that maybe a Huawei becomes a better fit for that style of use or that kind of that kind of lifestyle presentation. So we'll have to see. That's what's so unknown right now is we don't know how markets will react. I think it's going to be very easy shorthand to go, oh, the camera's amazing, but no Google services. And I think we're going to see a ton of videos like that, right? The hardware's great, super powerful phone, screen's gorgeous. Oh, the design and the wraparound sides, it's beautiful, but no Google services, and they won't dig any deeper than that. Oh, for those of you who are asking, it's not a fire alarm. Apparently, there's a big heavy truck right outside my window who's making the world's longest 13-point K-turn trying to get around my street. And they're just backing up and backing up and backing up, which is why you're hearing that beep. There's not anything I can do about that. If I could go to a throat mic, maybe I could get rid of some of that environmental noise. And they're getting closer and closer. It's a beautiful sound. It's not distracting at all, hearing beep, 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 beep. I love, working out of a home office with noisy neighbors and heavy machinery on the street every day. It's pretty great. But so I kind of lost track of where we were, but I think that was probably as good a place as any to wrap up that. I'm actually looking at putting together. I've been threatening to make this video for a while too, of how to kind of spread your services out a bit more. When I'm traveling, especially when I'm traveling internationally, I really like using Here Maps. Being able to store huge chunks of map data with points of interest, way better than Google Maps. It's not always great for when you have turn by turn in like your home city. I think Google Maps and Waze probably outperform there. But when you're traveling internationally and you don't want to hit your data too hard, or you might not have good data service, Here Maps is amazing. For my cloud storage, I leverage OneDrive pretty heavy. I don't like Google Drive. It doesn't perform as well. It's baked into Android, so it's a little easier in some respects when you're trying to share Android to Android, but it's not as full-featured, and it's not laid out like traditional file management as nicely as OneDrive is. I think there are these little pockets, these little opportunities where we can talk about just because it came on your phone doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best fit for you, and there could be some alternatives that can help you diversify what services you use on what platform and who's going to be profiting off of your data and interactions using one of their services. So, I think conversations like that will become more germane, especially when we see what the full impact is for Huawei, which I can't imagine it's going to be good. And like I said, while there's that glimmer of potential, I don't think it's going to be realized. I think the market is going to mostly react negatively to these types of Huawei stories, and there will be that fear of, well, I don't know what it's going to be like. Couldn't possibly use a Huawei because of that. But Kiwi Mad Dog 420 Sijic, who also brought it up from Zalbotnik. I use Sijic. It works better than Google Maps. Again, it's just there are some alternatives out there, and we shouldn't act like just because Google Maps is really good that there aren't other services that could still be a better fit for how you like to use what's going on there. Last story on Huawei, and then we're gonna do the man. This podcast is gonna run long. Thankfully, after the Reddit block is just iPhone. Oh, I do have a Pixel story and a Galaxy Fold story. This is gonna be a long podcast. I'm not gonna dig too deep in this because I really want to commend Anand Tech. I should ask Dr. Cuttress how you're supposed to pronounce that. Huawei CEO Richard Yu Q&A, politicians are playing games. I have really enjoyed Dr. Ian's coverage on CPUs, on architecture, and especially as he's given as much attention to Kirin as he has to Qualcomm. So I don't want to spoil this article too much, but Richard Yu sat down during the Mate 30 Pro launch and did a pretty intense Q&A with gadget reporters. And Anantech cataloged the entire interview. So it wasn't just their questions. Narav from Techno Buffalo asked a question. Andy Boxall from Digital Trends. They've got the bigger and more germane questions from the entire exchange. I would highly recommend giving it a read through. Huawei executives were very candid about the political infrastructure that they're operating under. Richard Yu seemed quite upset with the current circumstances that Huawei finds itself in. And there were some fairly candid answers about things like future services, Google services. This is the interview. This is the Q&A that these other articles are kind of being pulled from. So instead of just kind of getting one editorialized account of Huawei's response, Anantech has a great write-up on the entire exchange. So I'm going to have that linked in the show notes when the audio podcast goes live. I would highly recommend giving them a click. Go to Anantech and actually read through this if you're curious about the current set of circumstances and situation that Huawei finds themselves in. I can pontificate on a lot of this stuff. A lot of it's unknown until the market reacts, but you can get a clearer idea of Huawei's PR strategy from these types of interactions. So yes, that is all good. So there is already a little debate on how I'm pronouncing Anantech. Anantech? Someone just write it out. Just tell me how I'm supposed to say it. Oh, and some people asking about Microsoft Office. Or what Office? Oh, yeah, people talking about Office 360 and OneDrive. So my wife needs Office for work. So obviously, the video game developer that she works for, they gave her a laptop and she uses core services there. But because there's so much back and forth, we pay for Office 360, the yearly subscription fee for our own stuff too. And so we get 5 accounts, a terabyte of cloud storage per account. It's $100 a year. Each account gets the full Office, suite. And it's updated, so it's the subscription, just like Adobe Cloud. And then we also get like Skype credit or something that we've never, ever really used. But, because we have a family of computer users and we get 5 accounts and we're not using 5, we're only using 3 accounts at home. There are 2 other accounts that we're sharing with some family members. So I think that works out to a pretty good deal. cloud storage pricing has dropped a little, but I don't know of anyone offering the full Office suite, all of the upgrades. If you use Skype, I guess it could help you with Skype. And then 5 1 terabyte cloud accounts for $100 a year. So we've found it to be a pretty decent deal. This podcast not brought to you by Microsoft Office 360. All right, I am starting to lose my voice a little here. Let me take another long drink of water. From a Merenglot. SomeGadgetGuy. Skype credit is great for making calls to any numbers anywhere. I did some local calls from Japan to Malaysia a couple years ago, and it cost me like pennies per minute. That's great. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. I'm a vermin who bought standalone Office in 2019. Oh, and from Zalbotnik. This is a great point, and it's also one of those things that we shouldn't lose sight of just because I'm talking about Microsoft, and they're a dominant force in Office. Microsoft Office is the best Office suite there is. I tried Open and LibreOffice several times. For professional use, I would not want to rely on that, especially Excel is on a level of its own. Excel is amazing, but I'm so glad you brought up OpenOffice and LibreOffice. If you are just keeping track of stuff on your own, you don't want all of your document and spreadsheet and presentation work to be, your behavior to be up for grabs for Google's presentation and slides in Google Docs. LibreOffice is a phenomenal open source alternative to Microsoft Office and to Google Docs. You are not the product like Google Docs, and you don't have to pay for it like Microsoft Office. It's open source and free. So again, if you don't need the robustness or the compatibility, like you're not working on documents with other people, LibreOffice is phenomenal. I can highly recommend for your own home use. LibreOffice is good times. And Mimrenglot, personally, for a standalone Word document processor, I use AbiWord, and AbiWord is great too. Again, there are alternatives and there are solutions. It's exciting that, again, we don't need to just stick with mega player, most popular, that's the best. There could be other solutions that might work better for you and might work better for your wallet or your privacy concerns. All right, real quick. This was a YouTube heavy podcast, so I'm not going to go through my normal deep dive. Content creators need your help. One way that I've been trying to help other channels is by creating a subreddit, reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles. Community, the whole point of the community is to try and help creators get more attention. So if there is a creator on a small channel, if there's a creator on a larger channel, but someone you feel deserves more attention and more recognition for their work and they're not getting it from the YouTube algorithm, I would hope that you would check out reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles and share that content. What I love about the community that's been building on our Glowing Rectangles is it's a more diverse collection of conversations. It's a more diverse collection of videos and editorials than what you'll see in the YouTube popularity metric. Go to YouTube, check out your trending videos, check out your subscriptions, and you're going to see an echo chamber of this is the most popular stuff. If you go to Glowing Rectangles, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. It's super broad. And the community that's upvoting topics there are they're still upvoting Samsung and iPhone videos, but they're upvoting everything. So I want to go through the top stories of the last week on our Glowing Rectangles. From Steve Q3 Becker. It's also our Glowing Rectangles, not just our Glowing Rectangles. Top story. LG G8X ThinQ camera test from Fandroid. Nick Gray does some great videos over at Fandroid. They got their hands, the site got their hands on the LG G8X. They're doing a camera test, and that's the top story. top story during iPhone 11 week, glowing rectangles. LG still has something to offer. The tech community, the gadget community, it's some good stuff. Hold on, what is this? From Matt Tyler. If I make a YouTube video on the ROG Phone 2, someone better post it on our glowing rectangles. I think Matt Tyler is very anxious to get his hands on the ROG Phone 2. Steve Q3 Becker, you say thank you. I say you're welcome. And Goran Petrovic, people, don't forget Anil's mission. Don't forget Aditya Anil's mission. Talk to everyone you can to subscribe to Juan. While I absolutely love you guys for trying to share the word on my podcast and on my channel, I also want to find other ways that we can promote other content creators. She's been killing it on YouTube lately. Nothing But Tech 88. She's got a showdown between the Note 10 Pro, the iPhone 11 Pro, the Pixel 3a, the night mode photo processing on a $400 phone. What is the 11 Pro? It's a $1,000 phone, an $1,100 phone, and the Note 10 Plus, another $1,100 phone. Definitely give this video a watch. I don't think anyone would be shocked if a phone at $1,100 outperformed a phone at $400, but my experiences on the Pixel 3a, I don't believe you're getting $700 more camera performance on an iPhone 11 Pro. That's just me. Getting back into the subreddit. Oh, some jerk did a video about smoother video. Like anyone would really care if you could make your video better, because, consumers don't make things with their phones. They spend $1,200 on a phone and then just check their Facebooks. So who would care about making things from their phone? I hate this guy's face. But then the third place, rounding out the top stories on our glowing rectangles, we've got from Blue Malicious, sharing it from TechSpert, a look at the Motorola One Zoom camera. So the Motorola put out a 4-camera phone, and this is the third place story on our glowing rectangles. We had an LG video, we had a iPhone versus Pixel versus Note video, and the Motorola One Zoom making the third place pick. It's I absolutely adore the community that's been building. This is a tiny little subreddit. It's growing like 2 or 3 users a week, but as more people are sharing content here, as more videos are getting upvoted, it's really incredible to see what kind of topics people want to talk about, and then also some of the more international conversations where I'm getting to see some videos that I wouldn't have caught in other other sort of streaming services or streaming platforms. Yeah, another drink of water here. I might need to go refill. I'm drinking all of my water at a disturbing rate. Oh man, I hate that guy. Matt Tyler. Steve, I hate his hat. Matt, I hate his pickles. Oh, that's some jerk again. Dag nabbit. Oh man. Kiwi Mad Dog 420. That moto gets a major go from Flossie. Again, you want to talk about someone who doesn't get the notification love and the attention they deserve. Flossie Carter, he's been at it, man. That is a channel that deserves more traffic than he really gets. And I got to give him props for sticking with his production style and not like, I'm going to make all my videos cinematics. You're like, nah, it's a phone. You put it in your hands and you use it. It's good times. So this is one platform that I'm trying to put my time and my effort and my money where my mouth is. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Again, content creators need more of a nudge than just, I watched your video, give me another video. Participating. You got to find some way to participate if you want to continue getting cool stuff, especially cool stuff at low or no cost. If you're not out there supporting these channels in some way with effort, financially is great too, but with some kind of effort, then this stuff goes away. And I think we'd all agree we don't want this stuff to go away. You know what? As we go through, drop comments, continue in the live chat. I've seen so many awesome channels mentioned in the live chat. And if you like those channels and you're mentioning them in the live chat, maybe also go over to Glowing Rectangles and share some of their videos and upvote some of the videos there. And I bet you'll also find some stuff that you've never seen before. You'll find some content creators that you haven't watched before, and you might find your new favorite tech review channel. Because I've found some killer channels that if someone else hadn't shared them, I wouldn't have known that they existed. So we're now into the the final block of the podcast. We've got 3 specific gadgets to talk about. I want to start off with the most leaked smartphone of the year. No surprises. I think we all kind of know what's coming. But Google has some serious issues with their supply chain, just like what we saw last year with the Pixel 3. Pixel 4, super leaky. I feel like some of this could be combated if Google didn't hold to being one of the last major smartphone releases of this like harvest season in the second half of the year. Because folks who were going to shop an Android are probably already on some form of Galaxy, and folks who might have been swayed but were still in iOS camp, well, the new iPhones are out. And I don't think there's any issues with like processors and performance, but you are also launching near the end of the year on a chipset which will likely get cycled early into next year. So not like, wait and see. I'm going to wait for a Galaxy S11 instead of buying the Pixel 4 because I need a phone right now. But the timing and strategy on Pixel launches is tricky. So again, I don't think any of us really are surprised. This is coming from nextrift.com. But again, a lot of outlets have already published stories on this. This is just from the top of their article. The Google Pixel 4 is arguably the most leaked smartphone in recent memory. I just got to tag that back. It's the most leaked smartphone since the Pixel 3. But I digress. Its features, design, and so much more have been leaked numerous times. There are even hands-on videos of the yet-to-be-released smartphone. In fact, we actually got our hands on a unit too. So NextRift has a full breakdown on their experiences checking out a Pixel 4. What they do believe this is a Pixel 4 running some kind of pre-release software. And they go through quite a bit. Checking out the smooth display. So this will have a 90 hertz refresh rate screen. Take that, Samsung and Apple. AMOLED with a 1440p display. It doesn't have a notch anymore. I'm so happy to see just a contiguous forehead bezel so that all of the tech that's at the top of this is raring to go. They are confirming, if this is truly a Pixel 4, that it will not be running the Snapdragon 855 Plus. It's just going to be a regular 855, but it is going to have 6 gigabytes of RAM. Still no headphone jack. That's only going to be for poor people, right? Only poor people care about headphone jacks. And then they've got some camera samples, and it's looking pretty sharp. Again, a different color science and image processing than a Galaxy. They've got an S10 Plus to do some comparative shots. It's looking like another good entry into a premium phone market. And I'm still always going to be bummed about headphone jacks. But last year, I took a pass on the Pixel 3. Especially the Pixel 3 XL. I hated the design of that phone. For as much as I can kind of get over some notches, I still think they're horrific and stupid. And why would you break up the screen just to include a selfie camera? The Pixel 3's bathtub notch was particularly egregious. Walking away from that and just going back to a regular forehead bezel, I kind of want to support that design decision. I'm very curious to see what air gestures might do. I really liked palm unlock and the more secure face unlock on the LG G8. The air gestures were very tricky to nail with the hand choreography that you have to do. I accidentally jacked the volume on my phone last night because I had it down sideways. And as I was putting a glass down, my hand passed in front of the propped up phone in exactly the right way to long hold. It was just like a freak occurrence, but it worked perfectly. And as I was letting go of the glass, I twisted, and all of a sudden my Bluetooth headphones were way louder than they should have been. I have to believe that the Pixel 4's air gestures are going to be smoother than that. But I like this hardware competing better against Apple's Face Unlock and other ways that we can interact with phones. So I'm very curious about radar instead of time of flight as the way that we do air gestures. So last year, I focused more on trying to land an iPhone XS, and it really didn't do a whole lot for my channel covering Apple. I mean, those videos did well, but I wasn't going to become an Apple channel. So instead of trying to jump immediately on an iPhone 11, I will try and get around to an iPhone 11, but I think instead I'm going to try and put a little bit more focus this year on covering a Pixel 4 where I didn't cover a Pixel 3 at all last year. I think that's going to be a trade I'm going to enjoy better as I'm wrapping up the Xperia 1. I've got to finish reviewing the LG V50, and I also do kind of want to see what a refresh for a OnePlus 7 Pro looks like. So a OnePlus 7 Pro and a Pixel 4 might be my next two major strategy devices to review. So, just a little extra competition. After the Pixel 3a won so much goodwill for me. I've got 4 family members now using Pixel 3As, and they love those phones. Like, coming off of Moto G series devices and carrier branded cheap phones, and one of them's on a prepay, and they bought unlocked, and it was an expensive purchase for them to buy a Pixel 3a unlocked, and not just get whatever gut rot free phone they would get. It's so much nicer an experience. Like, they can't stop sending me pet pictures. They have a black cat. They have never been able to take pictures of their black cat before getting their Pixel 3a. I just like it. It was such a charming phone and did so much good work for the Pixel brand that I kind of want to see what a Pixel 4 is going to do. Something tells me I'm going to be more excited about the Pixel 4a next year, but I still want to see what the Pixel 4 might be capable of. I'm hoping it's good, and I'm hoping they're not playing the same crazy high-cost game, trying to make the same argument as a $1,000 Galaxy or an $1,100 iPhone. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. At this point, we kind of know everything that's going on with the phone, so the last unknown is just how much it's going to cost. And that's going to be a major determining factor. But if they can land this sort of at the premium tier of OnePlus pricing, that would be incredible. Like a $799 Pixel, that could be awesome. What isn't appropriately priced and has never been a real phone and really isn't worthy of the sort of casual and lazy coverage that it's received because it's so exciting, Galaxy Fold. Before we move on to the iPhone, I've just got one little we got to talk about Galaxy Fold story here. I don't love gadget destruction porn videos. I have a hard time with like, oh, we're going to do durability testing when really it's just an excuse to destroy something expensive. But I got to give at least the consistency to jerry-rig everything in how they go about. I think the lighter test is still an obnoxious gimmick. Oh, we burned the screen and it went dark. Cool. I don't know where applying fire to a smartphone is going to be sort of the durability in the purview of how we torture test devices, let alone how consumers actually use their devices. But all right. What I will give him, though, is he took a $2,000 Galaxy Fold and dumped sand in it, and it didn't do well. I'm not going to play the video here. I will have it linked in the show notes, but I want you to, go and check it out, and I got to stop it and pause it. Where is it? Or he just dumps like sand directly into it. Actually, this is kind of crazy too. The YouTube preview. Come on. What I should have done is done thumbnails here. So for all of Samsung saying, hey, we're going to go back and we're going to redesign parts of this and we're going to fix this and we're going to make it more durable, before you get started on your Galaxy Fold, avoid pressing hard on the screen. Tap lightly to keep it safe. Your Galaxy Fold is not water or dust resistant. Don't allow any liquids or foreign objects to enter it, and don't attach anything to the main screen such as a screen protector. Plus, the magnets in your Galaxy Fold will affect credit cards, medical devices, and other objects that can be affected by magnets. And don't get it wet. Don't feed it after midnight. So yeah, like one of the things that they show off on the Galaxy Fold is gaming, right? It's one of the few things where changing the aspect ratio of the screen and opening up a phone to make a square tablet. Okay, well, that doesn't really help a lot of services. It kind of helps maps, like you'd have a bigger map. That could be kind of cool. But gaming, that makes sense. Only what are you doing when you're playing a game on your phone? You're usually pressing into the screen pretty hard to make aggressive moves and changes and to really play the game. Like, think how hard you are on dual analog sticks and how Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons are dying because their analog sticks aren't that robust. I play pretty hard. If you've ever played Tesla versus Lovecraft, that's a great dual stick shooter, and the virtual dual stick on screen would destroy a Galaxy Fold. But he does kind of a gimmicky test where he dumps like sand and rocks into the phone. The new little covers that they have on the hinges do nothing to prevent any sand from getting in those gears. Now that the phone's out, I'm really hoping iFixit will revisit their teardown to see what little changes they made. But this is still not a real phone. The Galaxy Fold is not a real device. It's an expensive alpha test at consumers' expense. That Samsung is making people pay $2,000 for a 4G fragile tablet that folds into an awkward, large, fat kind of phone. Increasingly, I'm just not feeling this as a potential solution for the future of gadgets and services. Like, no one asked for a folding tablet. That doesn't really solve any major problems, and it does very little to disrupt a product category which already isn't very popular. And so Issa, I forget what her channel is. Her channel, Issa Does It, or Issa Said? I can't remember. But I'm Twitter pals with her. She recently did a video on that folding Nokia phone. It's like $100 flip phone. And she and I are very simpatico on this. I will be more excited about folding devices when, one, we can safeguard the hinges so that pocket lint won't disrupt the folding action on these really expensive gadgets, and two, when we can actually make these things smaller. I don't want a folding tablet. I want a phone that folds into a smaller pocketable device. So, like, again, you can take a 2:1 aspect ratio, or like that Sony, a 21:9, and fold it into almost more of like a square makeup compact size, which would fit better in pockets and purses. That to me is going to be way more exciting. And then I open it and I get this traditional smartphone form factor, but I close it and I've got a small, durable notification system. That, to me, would address some of these usage issues that we face with ever increasing larger smartphones. That, to me, would be kind of exciting. And then the opposite side is maybe we could start disrupting laptops. You know, you can have more of a tablet-y experience. It folds, it bends. You got a smaller screen, but you can open it and have like a proper clamshell laptop work experience. Something like that, I think, would be better. But this middle phase of super fragile, ridiculously fragile folding tablet just doesn't do it for me. And I really feel Samsung missed a huge opportunity on the PR side, on the goodwill side, to make the Galaxy Fold like an Explorer device. You know, like how Google crashed and burned with Google Glass. But the idea is still sound. You put out some Galaxy Folds, you get real world durability and testing. People are talking about them and showing them off in public. But you're not charging consumers $2,000 for a product which really isn't ready for consumer use. And at the end of that, you take all of those Galaxy Folds back and you tell consumers that, hey, we got a lot of great data. And now when we make the real product, it's going to be way better than what you saw during these real world tests and these explorers and these videos. Now we know how to make the right product for you. And I think that was a huge missed opportunity. Because now I'm going to be savagely critical of any other follow-up to the Fold that comes out. And you're going to see, like, immediately, how can we break this thing is going to be the tone of so many of these videos, as opposed to, what did Samsung do to make this better? They're going to go straight to torture porn gadget videos. And it's a shame. At some point, this technology and this feature, a bendable screen, is going to reach mainstream adoption. But where and how, the Galaxy Fold doesn't really get us there, and it doesn't really improve the conversation that we're going to try and start here. Just backtracking real quick. From LFA Reviews, the new Pixel development team seem to have their priorities together at SomeGadgetGuy if we use the 3A XL as evidence. Absolutely accurate there. From Mrenglat, assuming that the Pixel 4 will start at $999. I really hope the Pixel 4 is not $999. Goran Petrovic, so before Pixel 4, dongle reviews will be popular. And I have a bunch of people diddling dongles before the Pixel 4 review, before the Pixel 4 launches. A lot of people don't like square camera sensors on the back. I don't love them. I'd prefer I like the LG. The LGs are flush camera sensors. I don't understand why people are separating out the camera module from the back of the phone like that. I don't hate it. It did make me frustrated when iPhone users started doing, Commando. Arnold Schwarzenegger has that 4-barrel rocket launcher. Like, oh, look, people are doing Wall-E on Galaxy phones for the punch-out, the hole punch selfie cameras, but iPhone users have Commando rocket launcher, except for the fact that Huawei did it first. Come on, iPhone users. You got to catch up. You're way behind on square camera case jokes. But you'll be able to get a Commando case for the Pixel, I'm sure. Oh, Mimrenglot. This is a great recommendation. I just saw it in my feed. I haven't watched it yet, but he always does amazing videos. Look, a tech alter video on why manufacturers leak their phones. Everyone should be subscribed to Tech Alter. Does great business side examinations of the tech industry. From Matt Tyler, Zach only put sand on the screen and then closed the phone. Somehow that sand got inside the phone. That's actually what's so damning about the redesign for the Galaxy Fold. It still doesn't address the lifestyle durability that's required for a daily companion gadget like a smartphone. Think about how casually abusive we are to these kinds of gadgets. The Fold is not a real phone. It's a $2,000 vanity piece. It's a beautiful work of engineering and construction that should only exist under museum glass, in a museum case under soft, warm lighting. This should never be out in the real world. You should never give a Galaxy Fold to a kid. You shouldn't take it to the beach. You shouldn't put it anywhere near, your morning coffee in case you spill a little. This is not a real device. It's not. We shouldn't be acting like it is, and we shouldn't be giving Samsung the pass. Well, they said they fixed their manufacturing issues. They fixed nothing. It's the same phone. They would have had to have gone back to design and fundamentally changed the construction of the device, which we know they didn't. They put some little end caps on the hinges. That was about it. And so Memrenglat, the Fold is Generation 1 tech anyway. It's alpha tech. $2,000 for a refurbished prototype from Abraham Artemis. Tech Leathercraft. Galaxy Fold with an S Pen. S Series with DeX laptop dock. I want some of that. I mean, Galaxy Fold with an S Pen would be awesome, except for the fact that you can't touch the screen hard. So it's going to be a while before we can get an S Pen on a Fold. Oh, and some people talking about Apple and Air Power and the Apple Card and some other stuff too. I think if you want something that's going to be disruptive for your phone, if you want your phone to disrupt something, I really think laptop docks will be a more practical tech disruption than just, can I make a phone fold? I'm so frustrated that the next dock, we just got another shipping delay. But their manufacturing samples weren't lining up properly, and the keyboard was offset, and they had to go back to the manufacturer, the assembler, and fix it. So now my next dock won't arrive until the end of next month. It was supposed to be here the end of this month, and I totally believe we'll probably see another manufacturing delay again. But giving me just a laptop shell, it's a screen, a keyboard, and a touchpad, and a big ass battery, and I plug my phone into that, and it becomes the laptop, is so much more exciting to me than, can I replace the Android tablet that I don't use with a fragile square folding Android tablet? That's not exciting. That doesn't disrupt anything. But given everything that I was saying about making stuff from your phones, I could make stuff from my phone on a laptop dock and probably make it as good or better than my $2,000 gaming laptop. It's getting that close, folks. I'm going to be, before we move on, we're going to have the last story with Apple, and then we got to start wrapping this podcast up. I've been using the same video editing, video rendering test since 2016. Well, maybe 2017, I think, is when I started doing it at Pocket Now. The same test I've been doing for the last 2 years. So I'm going to be moving to a new video editing and rendering test, which is going to be a bit more intensive. And the first time I ran that test on my $2,000 Razer Blade with a GTX 970 GPU, my LG V50 beat my Razer Blade by 2 seconds, arriving at the same output render quality on a more intense, a more difficult rendering test. Crossfades, an overlay, a new music bed, transitions. LG V50 beat my Razer Blade. It's not a true oranges to oranges comparison because we don't have the same app on Windows that we do on Android. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care that it's a different app because it's the same video quality. It's a 50 megabit per second 4K video file, which came out of my phone 2 seconds faster than my $2,000 laptop. So when I travel, I don't need to take a $2,000 gaming laptop with me to get my work done faster on my phone. So that's lighting me up. That to me seems like a much better buy. And our phones are going to have way more horsepower for laptop computing than what most average consumers really need. So, who wants to talk about iPhones? I kind of don't. Man, I'm like, I've got like a little post-nasal drip going. I'm really hoping I'm not getting sick. This is not the week for me to get sick. So, iPhones are out. iPhone 11s are hitting the market. My YouTube feed has been an onslaught of all the things I needed to know about the iPhone and the real opinions on the iPhone and the don't buy an iPhone until I watch those videos and the comparisons on the iPhones and how the iPhone is the best and how it's the best iPhone. And because it's the best iPhone, it's the best phone. And the thing I want to lead with is, I was kind of teasing, I was making jokes about it before, but now that Apple finally invented Pro Video on a phone, all of those people who have been talking trash and have been dismissing our experiences in making content from phones now all seem very interested in using apps like Filmic and editing on Luma Touch. And wouldn't you know it, man, the iPhone 11 is so good at editing and rendering video. And man, you can really do video on phones now. It's amazing. You've never been able to do this before. No, just smooth video, image stabilized with software cropping and editing and rendering and like, whew, it's only now, 2019, Apple finally invented something useful for phones. The stories that I want to focus on are just that they don't get a lot of traction, and it's sad because I think consumers should probably know about some of this stuff. Every time we flip phone generations, there are going to be teething pains. Apple is not magic. Actually, this is the perfect comment. Where did it go? From LFA Reviews. My iPhone 11 is excellent, but iOS 13 has some bugs that need to be addressed. Thank you for that brilliant transition, LFA, because the first story I want to talk about is a flaw that should be corrected soon. But right now, iOS 13 still ships with a known lock screen bypass flaw that exposes all of your contacts. So this should be corrected tomorrow or the day after tomorrow when iOS 13.1 releases. I'm telling you now, folks, if you know anyone in your social circles who has an iPhone, you have until they update to 13.1 to take their phone and steal all of their contacts on it. You can bypass the lock screen and you can get to all of their personal contact info and all of the contacts that live on their phone. And this was a known bug in the betas. And it didn't make it to prime time. It didn't make it to a day one patch. Apple staggered the first week launch of their phone with very shaky performance and a huge exploit that allows you to bypass the lock screen. Apple will do a better job of fixing this than the wide variety of Android handsets out there. But Apple is not magic. It doesn't work just better. It doesn't just work. It's a computer just like every other computer. And for all of the excitement about launching a new phone, the vast number of consumers who probably have to flip their phone now if they want to buy a new iPhone, as opposed to keeping their older phone around longer as a backup device or giving it to their kids. Now it's all about trade-ins so that you can justify the higher prices, though the phones really aren't worth the higher prices because they're all based on this metric of giving your old phone back to Apple. Or leasing a phone. You're just never going to own anything. You're just going to keep paying to have phones and then flip them after a year. But Apple is prone to some, not only some of the same, but major structural privacy and security exploits, just like any other device. We covered it a couple weeks back, that there was a huge browser-based attack on iPhones that we still don't know the full scope of. We don't know how many people were affected or how many people had malware injected into their iPhones because of some phenomenal issues with Safari, and Apple has been gutting Safari the same way that Google was threatening to gut Chrome for things like ad blockers. So you remember when when Google was saying, "Hey, we're going to limit the number of calls that a browser plugin can leverage." Apple did the same thing. It made Safari more vulnerable to browser-based attacks and malware because they limited what developers could do with ad blockers. Why would Apple do that? Why would Apple make Safari less secure when they were currently dealing with a major browser exploit on iPhones? We just take this stuff for granted. Apple puts out a bar graph and says, iPhone more powerful, blue line bigger than gray line, and the media just goes, okay, yeah. Apple puts out billboards saying, we care about privacy and we care about your security, but don't pay attention to these 0-day exploits and how vulnerable, our browser is and how you can bypass our lock screen on every new generation of Apple product. There's some kind of exploit to get around the lock screen on the phone. And they aren't even able to keep pace with their own in-house competition, because the next story, Everything Apple Pro did their normal speed testing, the iPhone 11 Pro versus the iPhone XS versus the iPhone X. And I don't value app launch speed tests. I don't think they are a good indicator of overall performance. But what phone won the speed test? I'm not going to be able to click over thumbnails. Let me see if I can. I just want to. There we go. The iPhone XS won the speed test. And I shared this on Twitter. Again, this isn't a terrific way to quantify phone performance. But you're going through the test. You've got to load a game. Then you've got to cycle back through all the apps that are still in memory. It's kind of more a memory management test than it is any type of how powerful is the phone benchmark. But the iPhone 11 Pro is supposed to be for professionals who care about things like having more horsepower, having more and better memory management, and being able to multitask. And it wasn't just, the iPhone XS won by a couple seconds. It won by 30 seconds in a speed run, where each round of the speed run is between 2 or 3 minutes. So a half a minute difference in performance is kind of significant. And of course, when I post this, I get a lot of people pushing back on Twitter saying, the apps aren't optimized for the iPhone 11 yet. You have to wait until developers optimize the apps for the iPhone 11. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, that makes zero sense, because the iPhone XS and the iPhone 11 were both running on iOS 13. And Apple showed us those bar graphs. The blue bar graph on the iPhone 11 was like 20% longer than the gray bar graph for the iPhone XS. So Apple wouldn't lie. The iPhone 11 is 20% more powerful, right? But that's not really how this stuff works. It's a computer, just like any other computer. And the optimization that Apple is so celebrated for doesn't come until several updates have been pushed out. And the last story that we're going to cover on all of these iPhone stories and reviews and review reactions, more often than not, the reason why the newer iPhones win, in my opinion, isn't that the new phone gets so much more access to the powerful internals of that chipset. More, Apple just slows down the older phones, because right now we're on iOS 13. And in Everything Apple Pro's speed run, the iPhone XS on iOS 13 can beat the iPhone 11 Pro on iOS 13. But iOS 13.1 is going to bring a bunch of fixes. It's going to improve performance for the iPhone 11, and it's probably going to degrade performance on the iPhone XS and XR. So coming by way of The Verge, written up by @JakeK, the iPhone XS and iPhone XR will get processor throttling feature with iOS 13.1. This story coming by way of Steve, Q3 Becker. He really wanted to talk about this, and so did I. Apple will add its processor throttling feature. It's a feature to the iPhone XS and XR next week with the upcoming iOS 13.1 update. The feature, which was controversial when first discovered in 2017, limits some iPhones' performance to prevent random shutdowns due to aging batteries. Only The Verge, people. Only The Verge. Apple is introducing a major component of iOS 13, which will affect performance on one-year-old iPhones, phones whose batteries are only a year old, are already going to be processor throttled because Apple can't be bothered to include large enough batteries and good enough power management to keep your one-year-old phones from randomly shutting off when the battery starts to age. I don't even have it handy. It's back over here. This $1,000 that I spent on an iPhone XS, as soon as I update it to 13.1, I'm going to have to accept the potential of less stable performance or throttled performance. That this phone is only a year old and it already needs the hand-holding of CPU throttling to make up for the inadequate battery and inadequate power management that Apple built into this super premium device. I have a Galaxy Note 4 that I show off on the regular, and I can use that phone hard until I get to the low battery warning at about 10%. And that phone never randomly shuts off. It's capable of 4K video capture at 30 frames per second. It's got a stylus. It's got a ton of Samsung junk on top of it. But it's still a capable smartphone today. It is still a functional mobile computing experience today. And what are we doing? We're now calling this a feature. The Verge is calling it a feature that Apple is going to slow down your phone when it's a year old if your battery has started to degrade. Like if you use your phone every day and the battery starts to age a little, there's a half-life on every battery. Now it's a feature. It's not a reprehensible planned obsolescence business practice designed to turn the screw and make your one-year-old purchase more painful to use to encourage you to go out and buy a newer $1,000 phone. Oh, no. This is a feature. It's a part of the design. It's for the consumers. You don't want an unstable iPhone. There's no way we could fix that and make the iPhone more stable by including a slightly larger battery, better battery conditioning, like the Xperia 1 has an amazing battery wear leveling mode. No. What we got to do first is slow your phone down. We got to put the brakes on that amazing iPhone performance. This is what I mean, man. It's not even like this stuff doesn't even get covered now. It's now actively being called some kind of consumer benefit. This is something that Apple should still be investigated by the FTC because they did this secretly. But the reason why the FTC is inadequate as a consumer protection service is the only thing you need to do is tell consumers that you're going to screw them. As long as Apple tells us that with every iOS update, they're going to hammer the performance on our phones, We're going to artificially make your phone slower. No harm, no foul. We told you that's what we're going to do. So now it's totally fine that we go and do it. And that is just galling. It's just so frustrating. Words are failing me, and my pulse rate is super high. I'm at 120 beats a minute covering this story. So for all of the stories out there, the iPhone 11 is amazing. It's the best iPhone ever. Oh man, the iPhone 11 Pro, so good. I would just hope that it's... See, this is where I got to be careful. It's not about shaming people who like iPhones. But stories like this need more visibility. How we relate to an iPhone owner should be different than how we examine the claims of a multi-billion-dollar corporation who's one of the most profitable companies on the planet. And that, do we really think that this stuff is okay? Well, what else are you going to do? Can't do anything else. Can't change your behavior. You're stuck. You're in the iOS ecosystem. You're locked in. Oh, well, I don't accept defeat that easily. I think there is a market solution that we can push back against these business practices. And the first step is media literacy. So that when we see stories like these and we see claims, that we're able to properly assess those claims and grade performance in a more meaningful fashion than just blue line bigger than gray line. It's the best, most forward-thinkingest iPhone Apple has ever made. And tech reviewers share quite a bit of the blame. I feel that the worst, most egregious sin is in Facebook and YouTube style popularity algorithms. But if YouTube reviewers, if gadget reviewers don't understand how they're being conditioned to report on these stories, to popularize these stories, to only say nice things about companies that are already humongously successful, then we can't course correct. So I'm not calling out this YouTuber because I think he's being malicious or because I think he's not good at what he does. I'm calling this out because I think this is an example of a YouTuber whose content has been conditioned by analytics rather than the general tech discussion. And so Detroit Borg puts out a tweet just saying, hey, the thing that surprises me with the new iPhones is just how smooth and how insanely good the video stabilization is. And I really like Super Saf. I think Super Saf is a cool dude, and he puts out fun and entertaining videos. But when he says, yeah, even at 4K, 60 frames per second, something no other smartphone offers as far as I'm aware, I feel someone like Super Saf should probably be aware. Super Saf is pretty savvy. But again, he's been conditioned to follow the analytics and to follow the video production, which continues to help support his channel and continues to make him more successful. So he's not aware of Asus and LG phones that have been able to do this before the iPhone. Like when I put out a tweet saying like, oh man, 4K 60 frame per second video stabilization on the ultra wide camera on an LG V50. This is amazing. And the G8 recently got an update. Remember, LG never updates their phones, but the G8 now has steady software stabilization for 4K video at 60 frames per second with full manual controls, full audio controls, bitrate controls baked into the camera app, and you don't need to go and get Filmic if you want to tweak settings. I feel like someone like Saf should be aware of that. So again, it's not to talk shit. It's not to shame Saf, but I think we all can learn a lesson here that the echo chambering of content and the popularity of content means some of our favorite content producers literally cannot afford to spend more time reviewing less popular gadgets. If someone like Saf doesn't have a video hit, a popular, just the crowd reacts to it and it gets shared and it gets a ton of traffic. If he can't generate that on an LG video, his channel suffers for it. His metrics go down. His analytics go down. And YouTube reacts by making his future videos less popular, less recommended, notifying fewer of his subscribers. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to any medium, larger content creator. And it's really not fair to smaller content creators that exist on that greater diversity of products, especially when a smaller content creator probably can't front $1,000 smartphones on every single review. But this also reinforces this echo chamber idea. Apple didn't get there first. And I'd still question whether Apple is even best. I mean, if you want crazy smooth video stabilization, that's great, but that's only going to really benefit you in daylight. And then as soon as you go indoors, I'd be curious to see if Apple is able to keep up with what you can do with the manual controls on an LG. But again, you actually have to spend some time with an LG and learn that stuff. You actually have to dig a little deeper than just, I read the press release, this is all the time I can spend on an LG, and I'm never going to revisit an LG phone because it's going to destroy my analytics. This is where I think general consumers have lost a lot of faith in the tech enthusiast scene, and why we're probably not as well informed as we think we are because of how this content is produced and monetized. So that's just my bag. I want to spend some time with an iPhone 11. There are some things that I think would be very interesting to test and to assess. But in the smartphone roundup getting to the end of the year, I can't spend the cash on an iPhone 11 Pro. And I'm not really interested in flipping my iPhone XS. I kind of want to hold on to that one a little longer and see if it gets good support and good feature improvements, because Apple is always lauded for their operating system updates, but old phones don't always get good feature updates. And so far, the camera hasn't gotten any attention on the iPhone XS. For all of this iOS 13 improvement and dark mode, why doesn't my $1,000 iPhone XS have a night mode that can compete with my $400 Pixel? That seems to me to be a glaring oversight in Apple's support strategy. So that's about probably the right time to start wrapping all this up with our 2.5 hour podcast. I just want to go back through some of for some of these comments. Kiwi Mad Dog 420, strangely enough, the Pro Max model has nearly 4,000 milliamp hour battery capacity. Why would they need to throttle that? That's frustrating. Gary the Fireman, wasn't the iPhone optimized for throttling? That's the thing that the other press release that was put out is, we're going to throttle your phone, but we've improved how we throttle your phone, so it won't be that bad. We promise. I mean, it's going to slow your phone down, but we're way better at how we slow your phone down. A couple jokes at the Verge expense. From Steve, Q3 Becker, hashtag some rattled guy. Yeah, my pulse got up high on those last couple stories. Matt Tyler, the throttle feature coming to the iPad Pro soon. You know it will. You know it will. From LFA Reviews, not the Borg. Oh, Saf. Kiwi Mad Dog 420, Saf, you only make videos on phones. But again, Saf is so good at what he does. But a part of this is he's informed by his own analytics. Do, 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 do. Matt Tyler, Apple thinks nobody films inside at parties, obviously. Samsung either, man. Again, it's so funny when you see like, oh my gosh, Samsung's super steady mode is so amazeballs. And you're like, it's shooting 1080p video at 30 frames per second. Software cropping and tying into the gyro stabilization isn't that exceptional. It looks really smooth. I mean, it's not that it doesn't look really smooth. It's just, this isn't magic. And it falls apart so fast when you're not in super bright light. Aditya Anil 510, could this pave the way for a creator chat with Saf? Actually, I should reach out to Saf. I like Saf's work. He just needs to get schooled on LG and Asus phones, apparently. Needs a bit of schooling. So Goran Petrovic, again, shares my animosity towards removing the headphone jack. So I feel like he is also of a higher pulse at the moment talking about topics like these. But Goran Petrovic, popular reviewers are idiots, thanks to whom we don't have 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks. We have the most breakable phones. We have so fast charging that it will destroy our battery in 6 months, probably because they didn't complain. Try reviewing these phones in cases they simply can't survive real life without. I'm overreacting. So it's not that you're overreacting. The thing that's frustrating is popular reviewers are now, as far as YouTube is concerned, this isn't the decision of the reviewer. This is YouTube as a platform. This is just another form of entertainment. A review video is an entertainment video, as far as the YouTube algorithm is concerned, in my unlearned opinion. So the more popular a reviewer is, the more beholden they are to the community of people who find those videos entertaining. Tech reviewers do not drive the opinions of the market anymore. The entire situation is now backwards. The best example of this was the first 3 product launches for the Microsoft Surface. Tech reviewers now only follow the trends of consumers. If something sells well and it's popular with consumers, it gets good reviews. If it's not popular with consumers, it will not get good coverage. When the Surface 1 came out, we were going through that transition of Windows 7 to Windows 8, lots of teething pains there, and this was just a new product, right? No one had really tried with the same kind of infrastructure that Microsoft put into the Surface to make this happen. But Microsoft didn't play to tech reviewers. So by the time we made it to the Surface Pro 3, Microsoft's advertising on the ground was way more aggressive in courting consumers. Consumers started buying them like crazy, and when consumers started buying them, they started searching for content on the Surface more, and that dragged tech reviewers into acknowledging that the Surface was a good idea. It took 3 generations of product, but consumers led that story, not tech reviewers. Tech reviewers had to wait until consumers thought that this was popular enough for them to start taking it seriously. That's where YouTube has shifted the tone of discussion for things like gadget reviews. The iPhone is popular because it's popular, so it gets to stay popular. Because it's popular, you're going to have a bunch of stories about it, and so it's popular. LG doesn't lead their own marketing. They don't lead their own discussions. They're very passive in the marketplace, so not as many consumers are searching for LG. It's easy for tech reviewers to completely write them off. But it's not about the tech reviewer driving the discussion. They are choosing their videos and they're choosing their topics based on what's going to keep them satisfying the algorithm. And that, I think, is upsetting. That's a sad turn. And there is no rally, you know? I mean, for the people that are watching my podcast, I greatly appreciate the support and the help. But what we need to see is the same kind of push to share a less popular product video as we do when a Samsung video comes out and you see 20 copies of the same video all getting shared to a popular subreddit. That's not going to happen for an LG, a Motorola, an HTC, a Sony, a Nokia. It'll kind of happen for a OnePlus. It'll kind of happen for a Pixel, but it's mostly just going to be an echo chamber for Samsung and Apple. Matt Tyler, are you not entertained? And from Zalbotnik, I see reviewers complain about battery life and the lack of headphone jacks all the time. We shouldn't overestimate the influence of YouTube reviewers. So they can complain all they want, but the industry moves way faster than the market can really adapt to this stuff. The industry decided headphone jacks were gone. And now even Samsung is on that ride. There's too much money to be had forcing consumers to rebuy accessories like headphones. You don't really get the years of market data that you need to react to that. It just happens, and now you're gone. Glass backs. It just happens, and now that's gone. Removable batteries. No, we just decided that happened, now it's gone. And those little short-term perks of the phone gets a little bit prettier, the phone gets a little bit thinner. That the market doesn't really get a chance to adapt or course correct. Consumers don't really get the opportunity to vote with their wallets. This stuff happens from the corporations and the manufacturers way faster than we have a chance to react to it. So tech reviewers end up just kind of getting pulled along on the ride. They just end up having to react to the same things that consumers react to. And what are you going to do? Can't go somewhere else. Are you going to use a less popular device? I can't make YouTube videos about that. You need to use a popular device. And that's where we get stuck. From LFA Reviews, that's why I was super thankful that the smaller tech channels took it upon themselves to review the LG G8 fairly, or else it would have gone hugely ignored after the tech gods gave it a negative review. Oh, Aditi Anil. Also, one, I was dissing on the Fold on Periscope, but not much of a chat going on there. Yeah, my Periscope interaction's not super huge. Twitch is kind of the big draw for chatting during the live stream. And actually, I want to put this out there. Goran Petrovic, how many of you use your glass phone without the case? Do you remember what beautiful color it is? I refuse. I mean, the Xperia one was a terrifying review because I didn't want to buy a case for a phone that I was only going to have for a couple weeks. But every other phone is in some kind of protective shell. The only reason my iPhone isn't currently in a case is because I was shooting some video on it in the lab, but it's usually in this battery case. Again, battery case, performance, iPhone XS. All right, folks. I think that's enough yelling at you. Oh, but because someone brought it up, Zalbotnik, you're killing me if you're going to bring up AirPods. From Zalbotnik, I don't like AirPods, but mostly because they are overpriced. In concept, they are doing some good things. True wireless, decent microphone, ease of use. Okay. LFA and GameSki were way too kind. I am very anti-AirPods because they are unrepairable. If you try to open the casing to replace the battery on them, you are very likely going to damage the battery and cause them to ignite. They will very likely end up just being e-waste that ends up in landfills, and they create no seal around the ear. So if you use them in any kind of noisy or challenging environment, like a gym or out on a busy street, sure, it's kind of nice that you can hear the world around you, but the reaction most people are going to have will be to turn them up. If you want to have situational awareness, then you should use something like bone conduction. So my ears are totally open, I can hear the world around me, and then sound gets conducted through my cheekbones. That is a way safer way to hear the world around you that doesn't impact your hearing health by jacking up the volume to block out noise around you, and there is no concussive force from a driver going into your ear canal. Now, these can still affect your hearing if you listen too loud. Vibrations through your skull will still eventually degrade your hearing, but it's way healthier for you, and it's way safer if your argument is situational awareness. If your argument is not situational awareness, then you're going to spend a lot on AirPods compared to comparable sound quality on other true wireless, and you'll probably need a hearing aid faster than if you use closed, sealed ear tips. So your convenience purchase from Apple is only going to help you arrive at hearing aids sooner. Especially for me, I have some hidden hearing loss, and I use a product. This is the new Hera, and these are hearing assistants. It's a noise cancellation earbud that reduces noise around me in the environment so I can better hear human speech. And these things sadly come in handy more often than you'd think they would. So that's the trick. Sure, AirPods, fine, but they're bad for you, they're bad for the environment, and they're expensive. Mediocre sound quality, awesome, great, but we're gonna keep fronting them because consumers ran after them and they got popular, so now we have to keep pretending that this is a viable option in the headphone space. I really need to wrap up this podcast. Whew. So we're going to go. Folks, thank you so much for participating this week's show. This was an amazing live chat, even for me being kind of cranky and a little sick. I think I am a little bit sick. This sucks. But I've got a lot coming to the channel. The Xperia 1 review will be going live as soon as I know that YouTube isn't going to demonetize it. You want to help support the conversation around a different phone? There are pros and cons, but we can be fair in assessing the pros and cons on a Sony like we can be fair in assessing the pros and cons on an iPhone, right? It's going to need some help. It's not going to get shared. It's a longer-term review on a phone that people already wrote off. I could use the assist when that video finally goes live, but it's available now on the Patreon if you want early access to some of those videos and other reviews. I'm also going to be releasing my Focals review this week. I finally have everything shot, but it's going to be a long video. It's going to be an almost 15-minute review, and there's a lot of stuff that you need to collect from the phone and the app. But, you know, if you want a good heads-up display, because Apple isn't making a heads-up display, and Samsung isn't making a heads-up display, and Google isn't making a heads-up display, and Microsoft isn't making a heads-up display. Focals, North is making a heads-up display. And I now am getting notifications directly to my line of sight, which is going to be super distracting for me wrapping up this podcast. And wrapping up the week, I'm going to have the second half of my Mi Audio lineup review. I covered all of their new earbuds and in-ear monitors, and I got my wife's reaction to using custom molded ear tips for the very first time. So I'm going to be really excited to share that, because this woman has never been able to fit in-ear earbuds in her ears. They've always been painful. They've always been uncomfortable. This is going to be a fun reaction. She's never heard audio like this before. So I got it on camera. So that's going to be coming out at the end of this week. Got lots of stuff to talk about. I've got some editorials planned. I'm going to have some Newegg videos coming out. I'm going to have another podcast appearance on a friend's show. Flow Ion is going to be in town. We might try and get together and do something fun. Me and TK Bay still have to give some phones away. Do you want a phone contest? You got to help us share this stuff, folks. We want to give you phones. Do you want phones? We want it because we have phones to give. But we can't get there without support, without participation, without sharing, and without finding those communities and helping us spread the word. So there's a lot coming out, and I promise this will be way more fun than Cranky Juan during this week's podcast. So folks, again, huge thank you, huge shout out to all the folks that are still hanging with me in this live chat right now. I'm going to be back next week with another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show. I want you to have a fantastic tech week. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here next Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time on the Twitch. Take care. Be well. I love you all.